Currently assembled on the plane is the United States Military Academy Band and the band's field music group, the Hellcats. The presence of the band on the plane today represents the significant role that military musicians have continued to perform throughout recorded history for signaling in camp, keeping troops in step on and off the battlefield, boosting troop morale, and serving as ambassadors on behalf of the American soldier. The bugle call just heard was "Attention." It is used to alert the cadet commanders that adjutant's call is about to sound, signaling the start of the parade. Bugle calls are used in the military service of the United States as a direct result of the contact of the Continental Army with European soldiers and armies during the Revolutionary period. Marching in today's parade are cadets from allied nations enrolled in the 4-year program at the United States Military Academy. Upon graduation, they will serve in the armed forces of their respective countries. There are currently 57 Allied cadets representing 32 different countries as members of the Corps of Cadets. 14 Allied cadets are members of the class of 2019. Also marching in today's parade are exchange midshipmen from the United States Naval Academy, cadets from the United States Air Force Academy, and the United States Coast Guard Academy. They are attending West Point for the fall semester and can be identified by the uniform of their respective academies. A similar number of West Point cadets are attending the other service academies for the same period. The marches that will be played as the cadets march onto the plane are the regiment's Return to Glory. For today's parade, spectators are reminded to stand and render appropriate courtesies for honors, our national anthem, and when the colors pass your position. It is appropriate for civilians to stand with the right hand placed over the heart. Veterans and currently serving members of the U.S. Armed Forces who are not in uniform may render the hand salute. Spectators are also reminded not to smoke or drink and to please refrain from loud talking during the parade. As a courtesy to others seated around you, kindly take all your pictures from your seat throughout the ceremony. The marches that will be played as the United States Military Academy Band Troops the Line are National Emblem and Washington Post. This march across the front of the line is said to have originated with the Crusades. The troops offering themselves for service were drawn up in a long formation, and the band countermarched only before those chosen to serve. The commander of troops for today's parade is the brigade commander, Cadet First Captain Eugene Coleman III from Alexandria, Virginia. His staff consists of the Deputy Brigade Commander, Cadet Captain David Grossman from Portland, Oregon, the Brigade Executive Officer, Cadet Captain Evan Burnham from Gaithersburg, Maryland, the Brigade Adjutant, Cadet Captain Pascal Brunn from Port-au-Prince, Haiti, the Brigade Intelligence Officer, Cadet Captain Michael Otten from Hickory, North Carolina, the Brigade Operations Officer, Cadet Captain Evan Harkins from Westchester, Pennsylvania, and the Brigade Information Systems Officer, Cadet Captain Joshua Olivas from Raleigh, California. Ladies and gentlemen, the class of 2019! The march being played as the 4th class takes their position in the corps is the Rookies. In the reviewing stance today are leaders and representatives of West Point classes and societies. These alumni are proud to be here today to represent the Long Gray Line, which now stretches over 200 years. The reviewing party for today's parade consists of Lieutenant General Robert Caslin, Superintendent of the United States Military Academy, Class of 1975. Lieutenant General Retired Larry Jordan, Class of 1968. Chairman of the West Point Association of Graduates. Lieutenant Colonel Retired Norm Cooney, Class of 1966. The Honorable Tom Dyer, Class of 1967. Colonel Retired Dutch Hostler, Class of 1968. Colonel Retired Michael Colasico, Class of 1969. Brigadier General John Thompson, Commandant of the United States Corps of Cadets, Class of 1986. Command Sergeant Major Don Ripplemeyer, Command Sergeant Major of the United States Corps of Cadets, and Brigadier General Timothy E. Traynor, Dean of the Academic Board, Class of 1983. The leaders of the classes of 1966, 1967, 1968, and 1969 are a part of the reviewing party because of their class's 50-year affiliation with the 4 classes currently in the Corps of Cadets. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for honors and remain standing for the playing of the national anthem. Please feel free to sing along as our national anthem is played. Please be seated. Ladies and gentlemen, the United States Military Academy Band will now play our alma mater, the most beloved of all West Point songs. The words to the alma mater were written on June 9th, 1912, 1 year after Cadet Paul S. Reinecke graduated from the United States Military Academy. It was sang at the baccalaureate service for the first time and took its place as a musical expression of the feelings of every West Point graduate toward their alma mater. Ladies and gentlemen, please rise at this time. Alumni traditionally remove their headgear and stand at attention for the playing of our alma mater. You are cordially invited to sing along with us as it is played. Please be seated.
Pass and review. Pass and review.
The pass and review serves two functions for the superintendent. It dismisses the cadets and at the same time provides an opportunity to inspect the state of discipline and training. The marches that will be played as the cadets pass and review are America Exultant, the official West Point March, So Freedom Will Reign 2019, Manhattan Beach, Bombasto, and The Army Goes Rolling Along. With Strength We Lead 2019 was written by Staff Sergeant Noah Taylor of the United States Military Academy Band and was named for the class motto. The United States Military Academy Band is under the direction of Lieutenant Colonel Andrew Esch with a drum major, Sergeant Major Christopher D. Jones.
The 1st Regiment is commanded by Cadet Captain Alex Idrashi from Port-au-Prince, Haiti. The Regimental Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Cameron Hargis from Corpus Christi, Texas. The 1st Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Dalton Combs from Woodinville, Washington. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Timothy Nafee from Tiptonville, Tennessee. Company A is commanded by Cadet Captain Ryan Brown from San Jose, California. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Mark Daybeck from Eagle River, Alaska. Company B is commanded by Cadet Captain Michael Chu from Spring, Texas. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Matthew Lane from Walton, Indiana. Company C is commanded by Cadet Captain Ian Beto from Bothell, Washington. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Nate Volk from Houston, Texas. The 2nd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Justin Hall from Sarasota, Florida. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major James Matthew Brazel from San Diego, California. Company D is commanded by Cadet Captain Kylie Skurs from Ansbach, Germany. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Matthew Loza from Northridge, California. Company E is commanded by Cadet Captain Austin Safranek from Lincoln, Nebraska. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Paul Getchell from Clarksville, Tennessee. Company F is commanded by Cadet Captain Andrew Yoon from Anaheim, California. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Landon Hansen from Viborg, South Dakota. The 3rd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Nicholas Truax from Trulock, California. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Jessica Beatty from Lawton, Oklahoma. Company G is commanded by Cadet Captain Kyle Hinrichsen from Goodfield, Illinois. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Brad McKinsky from Salina, Kansas. Company H is commanded by Cadet Captain Zach Schmidt from Gainesville, Florida. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Joseph Ferlaney from New City, New York. Company I is commanded by Cadet Captain Erica McSwan from New Fairfield, Connecticut. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Blaze Bizar from Bohemia, New York. The 2nd Regiment is commanded by Cadet Captain Joshua Allen from Fort Bragg, North Carolina. The Regimental Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Megan McNulty from Centerville, Virginia. The 1st Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Lowell Gothard from Fayetteville, North Carolina. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Davis Marler from Carlton, Georgia. Company A is commanded by Cadet Captain John Sproul from California, Maryland. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Casey McCravey from Scottsdale, Arizona. Company B is commanded by Cadet Captain Hunter Mancini from Pottstown, Pennsylvania. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Haley Winters from El Paso, Texas. Company C is commanded by Cadet Captain Hamad Al-Hanzab from Doha, Qatar. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Patrick Hogan from Lynn, Massachusetts. The 2nd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Jimmy Yin from Pullman, Washington. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major John Kennedy from Russellville, Missouri. Company D is commanded by Cadet Captain Marco Zamora from El Paso, Texas. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Kyle French from San Antonio, Texas. Company E is commanded by Cadet Captain Michael Paros from Pittsburgh, California. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Justin Joyner from Agricola, Mississippi. Company F is commanded by Cadet Captain Jake Baumeister from Fayetteville, North Carolina. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Ginny Yan from Fremont, California. The 3rd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Justin Reese from Greensboro, North Carolina. The Battalion Command Sergeant Major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Jonathan Spurnack from Cleveland, Ohio. Company G is commanded by Cadet Captain Madison Hager from Minnetonka, Minnesota. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Tom Evans from Laurel, Maryland. Company H is commanded by Cadet Captain Alexandra Dietz from Wilmington, North Carolina. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Chioma Adocha from Columbia, Maryland. Company I is commanded by Cadet Captain Dominic Morey from Portland, Oregon. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Charlene Cateau from Rochester Hill, Michigan. Since the days of the American Revolution, flag bearers have been an important element in ceremonies. At the center of today's formation and bearing the national color is the United States Corps of Cadets Color Guard, led by Cadet Color Sergeant Ryan Gunderman from Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
The 3rd Regiment is commanded by Cadet Captain Christian Botrego from Houston, Texas. The regimental command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Donald Goff from Framingham, Massachusetts. The 1st Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Jillian Collins from Royal Palm Beach, Florida. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Ian Malden from Albuquerque, New Mexico. Company A is commanded by Cadet Captain Colin Shannon from Redwood City, California. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Corinth Cross from Suffolk, Virginia. Company B is commanded by Cadet Captain Sean Monsees from Bayside, New York. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Bennett Burkhardt from Spokane, Washington. Company C is commanded by Cadet Captain David Bennett from Modesto, California. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Christian Garcia from Palacios, Texas. The 2nd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain John Geiger from Bentonville, Arkansas. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Morgan Rabelais from Oswego, New York. Company D is commanded by Cadet Captain Carissa Peckney from West Lafayette, Indiana. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Will Hodge from Henderson, Kentucky. Company E is commanded by Cadet Captain Bryce Barnes from Virginia Beach, Virginia. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Gabriella Spindler from Clarkston, Michigan. Company F is commanded by Cadet Captain Samuel Coling from Bernie, Texas. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Mackenzie Rifford from Hagerstown, Maryland. The 3rd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Dustin Santos from Orlando, Florida. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Robert Winterstein from Elizabeth, Colorado. Company G is commanded by Cadet Captain Joseph Kim from Killeen, Texas. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Ryan Johnson from Livermore, California. Company H is commanded by Cadet Captain Katie Wilson from Oklahoma City, Oklahoma. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Alec Herrera from Fort Walton Beach, Florida. Company I is commanded by Cadet Captain Michael Lammy from Madison, New Jersey. The 1st Sergeant is Cadet First Sergeant Logan Schmidt from Madison, Wisconsin. The 4th Regiment is commanded by Cadet Captain Andrew Borer from Altaloma, California. The regimental command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Thomas Huxtable from Neenah, Wisconsin. The 1st Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Quintessa Gold from Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Justin Hawkins from Franktown, Colorado. Company A is commanded by Cadet Captain John Barnett from Salt Lake City, Utah. The 1st sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Brian Boer from Lancaster, Pennsylvania. Company B is commanded by Cadet Captain Connor Mulher from Eagan, Minnesota. The 1st sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Callie West from Houston, Texas. Company C is commanded by Cadet Captain Tyler Cheney from Newbury Park, California. The 1st sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Brad Wagner from Anaheim, California. The 2nd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain Michael Westrom from Glen Ellen, Illinois. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Matthew Dennison from Peoria, Arizona. Company D is commanded by Cadet Captain James Campbell from Middletown, New Jersey. The 1st sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Rebecca Sauter from Knoxville, Tennessee. Company E is commanded by Cadet Captain Afa Maza from Comstock Park, Michigan. The 1st sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Darian Vaughn from Madison, New Hampshire. Company F is commanded by Cadet Captain Gregory Hirschberger from Olympia, Washington. The 1st sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Meyer Ungerman from Dallas, Texas. The 3rd Battalion is commanded by Cadet Captain David Williams from Orange County, California. The battalion command sergeant major is Cadet Command Sergeant Major Matthew Altamirano from Los Gatos, California. Company G is commanded by Cadet Captain Alex Stewart from Steilacoom, Washington. The 1st sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Lila Garner from Fort Thomas, Kentucky. Company H is commanded by Cadet Captain Christopher Young from St. Robert, Missouri. The 1st sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Nathaniel Marks from Lilburn, Georgia. Company I is commanded by Cadet Captain Gabriel Beck from Prosser, Washington. The 1st sergeant is Cadet 1st Sergeant Ryan Hinckley from Alexandria, Virginia. Ladies and gentlemen, please stand for the playing of the Army song, The Army Goes Rolling Along. Please feel free to sing along as it is played. Ladies and gentlemen, this concludes today's 4th Class Acceptance Day Parade. We would like to remind everyone to please stay off the plane and out of the cadet area as you exit the parade grounds. Thank you for attending and enjoy the rest of your day.